Time in the San Juan Mountains of southwestern Colorado moves at a glacial pace. These jagged peaks, reaching for the sky, have been carved by fire and ice. Uplifted by volcanic forces deep within the earth, the area around Silverton is the remnant of a long-ago caldera. These rugged crags that pierce the sky were jutted further upwards by the uplift of the area now known as the Colorado Plateau. Through the eons, the last of the ice ages soon weathered away these lofty zeniths, their snowmelt further etching into the landscape that is known today. From a geological viewpoint, a blink of an eye can be a century in this man-made construct we call time. And today, that's why we're here. A single century. And while a single century is not long to the epic of these mountains, nor even to the railroad that continues to this day to pierce into its depths, 100 years covers 70% of the history of the railroad through these rugged crests. But a single century covers the entire span of one of the most famed classes of locomotives to ever tame these wild lands. Forged in the foundries of the American Locomotive Company's Schenectady Locomotive Works, these locomotives were originally classified as the E4 148S class of the Denver and Rio Grande Western. These 10 locomotives soon crossed the continent on flat cars, knocked on the gates of the Royal Gorge to roll up the Arkansas River, and arrived at the division point and shops of Salida, where on the 2nd of October 1923, the 473 became the first of this new breed to take to the slim rails of the Denver and Rio Grande Western's 2nd Division, reaching their way over Poncha Pass on the head end of the Shavano, the daily passenger train from Salida to Gunnison, and on the freights that polished these same rails, but even further onwards to the mines of Crested Butte. These sport models, a moniker so named for their smooth ride and rakish looks, soon began to radiate southward from the exit on the Arkansas. Leaving Mears Junction, they surmounted Poncha Pass and rocketed across the water-level flats of the upper San Luis Valley, before crossing the namesake Rio Grande at Alamosa. Southward from there, these new sport models rolled down the Rio Grande to Antonito and headed further south, where they took up the lead on the mixed train of the Chile Line to the city different, Santa Fe, the capital of New Mexico. Or they headed westward on the San Juan Express, the other remaining named passenger train on the narrow gauge over the lofty summits of Cumbres, through the sleepy division point of Chama, over the Continental Divide, and onward to Durango, splitting even further along the Rio de los Animas Perdidos to both Farmington and the Alpine mining camp of Silverton. The entire class, save for the three, the 473, 476, and 478, were loaded for the Arctic and barged to Alaska, assisting with the construction of the Alcan Highway at the end of the White Pass and Yukon Railroad in Whitehorse, Canada, and other wartime activities on the railroad. With the White Pass back in civilian control by late 1944, the now numbered 250 to 256 were deemed too far gone by the Rio Grande and scrapped at Auburn, Washington. However, the original 472 would make it as far as Ogden, Utah, where it also met its fate at the end of the scrapper's torch, its boiler making it to the Pueblo Ordnance Depot. The named passenger trains dropped away, with the Shavano between Salida and Gunnison receiving its last orders in November of 1940, and the San Juan rolling over Cumbres until January 31st of 1951. Though the San Juan was discontinued, the 473 would pull a final mandated segment of this train until May 22nd of that year, when the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission finally gave its blessing for the Grand to quit running this stub train between Chama and Dulce. With the cessation of the San Juan, the remaining three would ultimately displace the remaining smaller K-27 Mudhen-type locomotives from the Silverton Mixed, as the popularity of this line grew exponentially. With a little help from Hollywood and its proliferation of westerns shot in the region. During this time, these locomotives gained their iconic diamond stack shrouds that were applied to falsely backdate the locomotives to an era that predates their construction. These stacks would remain until the Silverton Branch was purchased by Charles Bradshaw and became the new Durango and Silverton in 1981. For the last 45 years, these remaining three have been steaming down these narrow rails, with the 478 out of service since 2016. 476 returned to service in 2018 after a 2-year overhaul, having been removed from service in 1999 due to a worn cylinder saddle and its mating with the frame. Meanwhile, 473 has never been pulled from service, making it the single longest continuous serving steam locomotive in the United States, with it having operated in almost, if not every calendar year of the past 100 years. It's the morning of October 16th, 2023, and our train today is led by 473 on the freight section, which is composed of 2 drop-bottom gondolas, 2 6600 series flat cars, 2 6500 series fish belly flats, and 2 3000 series boxcars, all showing Denver and Rio Grande Western reporting marks. Behind the 476, as the mid-train helper, is our passenger consist of San Juan Coach 327, 323, and 319. Concession car 212, recently backdated to combine configuration, the reproduction Silver Vista, and finally, bringing up the markers on today's train is Caboose 0540, fresh from the paint booth in Rio Grande paint. At Oxbow Park, the sun has yet to rise through the gap between Missionary Ridge and Fort Lewis College, but that's not stopping the special as it rolls up the Animus. After Oxbow Park, the railroad and the highway squeeze through the bottleneck of the river and the glacial moraines and enter the Alamosa Valley, carved by these glaciers. From here, at Home Ranch, to the water tank at Alamosa, the railroad follows the valley's western rim through Trimble. Still, even hugging this western wall, we'll remain in the shadow of the imposing Missionary Ridge this morning until we begin climbing Alamosa Hill. After stopping at Alamosa, the K-28s and their train finally enter the sunlight as they leap over the Animas Consolidated Ditch and dig into the relentless 2.5% grade of Alamosa Hill. This 9-mile climb ends at Rockwood. Just before arriving at Rockwood is Granite Point, the locale of the first official run-by. This location is the site of many a photo, specifically one featuring what may be the last mid-train helper on this line, as seen in this postcard. We pause here to witness the special pound up the final portion of the Alamosa Hill grade into Rockwood. After Granite Point, we hop aboard the train for the continuation of our journey to Silverton. We've taken up our seats in the cupola of Caboose 540 as we roll through the Rockwood Cut and out onto the high line of the world-famous Horseshoe Curve and ease out onto the shelf track.
473 north out of Rockwood at 933 with speed 5,000. Over.
Hey.
Accept, no substitute.
We arrive at Tacoma, the site of the remote hydroelectric plant at the bottom of the Animas Canyon. Due to having to get into the clear for the daily scheduled train number 463, the run-by was cut distance-wise, and our chosen location meant we would miss part of the special. Instead, we'll witness train 463, led by K-37, number 493, pulling the heavy daily train from the depths of the High Line. With the daily train gone, we begin loading up in preparation for our next run-by. We're at Repeating Curves, just north of Tacoma. This location, like Cement Wall, was created by the carnage of the 1970 Labor Day flood that ripped out this section of railroad. Once a tangent section of track, the rails here now hug closer to the rock walls in a serpentine route, wall braced against the Animas on a crib wall of old rail. Just before Cascade, we reach the cement wall, the retaining wall that keeps the railroad out of the River of Lost Souls along this stretch of canyon. We're at Goblin Fire as the train heads up from Cascade Canyon under the iconic prow of the Needle Mountains. At Needleton, we pass through a meadow next to the rails in the amphitheater at the confluence of Needle Creek and the Animus. we hop back onto the train and ride the caboose from Needleton to Elk Park, where we'll take the haul for southbound daily train number 464.
Do you know what smoke is? Do you know what smoke is? No. Who gave you carbon? Who gave you a Lieutenant Danielson? You read the back and dear.
Mount Garfield, with its prominence of 4,170 feet above us, scrapes the sky at an elevation of 13,068 feet above sea level. We're taking the siding here at Elk Park, the northernmost siding on the Silverton Branch, meaning that it's our last chance to clear the main track for the southbound daily train.
Now get when you're done.
With 493 and train 464 in the clear, we're off to Whitehead Gulch. South of the Snowshed Slide, this location was once a water spout that could be used to top off tenders, since water was not usually available in Silverton, and water from the Animus is too hard, i.e., too high in mineral content for use in locomotive boilers. Climbing up the talus slopes here provides a great vantage of the nearby Needle Mountains. While it's not after sunset, we're entering Baker's Park and deep in the shadow of Sultan Mountain as we cross the Animus for the final time, both geographically and for the final time on this historic bridge, as this would be the final time a photographer special would call here before the new bridge would open the next spring in 2024. Finally, we arrive at the corner of 12th and Blair, putting a cap on the first day of the celebration of the K-28 class of locomotives. I'd like to thank you for watching Part 1. Part 2 will be releasing soon. So please, like and subscribe so you can catch that. Hey guys, it's a big deal. In my history of the K-28s is a Cliff Notes version of a Cliff Note. If you'd like to know more about some of the most photographed and famous steam locomotives of the United States, I suggest you go buy White River Productions' Rio Grande narrow gauge K-28 locomotives, which has just about every factoid about these you'd ever want to know. Also be sure to go check out the Denver Public Library's digital collections for other historical photographs from photographers, including the famed Otto Perry, who chronicled much of the history of railroads in the Southern Rockies. Hey guys, you've reached the end of the video, but that doesn't mean you can't stop watching for more content. Make sure you click like and subscribe, and check out for more of this extra content in some of these other boxes. I'm Big Deal. Thanks for watching.